Hello, everybody. This is Mike, and just thought I would say hello. Happy holidays to everybody, whatever your holiday celebration choice may be. And so, what do I want to talk? What did I title this as? Titled it something to the effect of borderlines are incapable of understanding and acting on their emotions appropriately, and so are their partners. So it's important to understand that. Everybody watching this video, whether you're borderline or a partner of a borderline, you are not acting appropriately. You are not able sometimes to even act on your feelings. So let me qualify myself here. The name of this channel is The 4 Things That Heal BPD and NPD Abuse. That's all that matters. Everything else that I say, no matter how interesting it may be to you, is meaningless if you are suffering from pain associated with being romantically involved with somebody that has one of these cluster B personality disorders. Everything I say is meaningless if you don't do the 4 things. Unless, of course, you are somebody that suffers from BPD. In that case, I am not qualified to even begin to tell you what you need to do. My understanding is that DBT therapy works very well. DBT therapy, as well as group therapy and all of the homework that they give you, I hear that is very helpful. But I don't have any personal experience in that. I myself am not a therapist. I am not a counselor. I do work with clients, but that's on my other channel here. It's got nothing to do with this. In fact, since I've started this channel, I've been asked many times to counsel people, and I even tried counseling a few people for giving them my advice without being technically psychological counseling. And even though I charge for that, I'm not going to do that. I won't do that. And the reason for that is because I'm not the solution. The solution is doing the 4 things. And I did the 4 things. I was in a romantic relationship with somebody whom I believe had undiagnosed, untreated borderline personality disorder and narcissistic personality disorder. And that was easily the most concentrated, toxic experience of my life. And I'm somebody that I've been working on myself. I've been working 12 steps. I've been meditating, doing spiritual work for whatever it is, 40 years now. And the damage that I experienced from that relationship almost killed me. So I am now completely 100% healed of that relationship, not of the rest of my issues and just being human. I've still got all those things. But in terms of that relationship, I have 0 pain, 0 anger, 0 questions. I have no ruminating. I don't think about, what we had or how horrible she was. None of that. I have complete apathy when it comes to her, which means that I don't have any feelings one way or another. I have nothing but love and compassion for her, as I do for all other humans. And I do have a soft spot in my heart for borderlines, what they've been through, because it is so close to what I went through as a child, even though I technically am not a borderline. But in terms of her, that relationship, I wouldn't even spend any time thinking about it. In fact, I have to rack my brain right now to remember her name. Okay, I remembered it. Takes me a while. No, wait, did I? Yeah, okay, I remembered it. So if you want to have what I have, where you don't have any pain, you don't have any anger, anything associated with that previous relationship, then the only thing I can tell you is what I've done. That's the only thing I have to give you. is to do what I've done. People still like to come onto the channel because I will go in depth talking about borderlines and explaining my understanding of what goes on with them, how they think, with the express purpose of helping you to realize that what you're trying to accomplish is a complete waste of time and that you should get out and start doing the 4 things. That's really all I do. So, having said that, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at some comments. I guess before we do that, just to get you interested. So I'm being straight with you. I am consciously doing this to hook you in. Because if you've been with a borderline, what I'm going to say is going to be very interesting to you. You're going to eat it up because you want to understand them. So I'm going to help you understand them a little bit. But I'm telling you right now that the whole point of doing that is to hook you in, because then I am going to tell you something that you need to know, which hopefully will put you in a state of taking action. And hopefully by the end of this video, you will be able to take appropriate action to your feelings. If you are watching this video, you are still in pain, you haven't done the 4 things, then I guarantee you that you are not acting appropriately to your emotions. All right, so how does this apply to borderlines? So borderlines do not understand, nor do they act appropriately on their emotions. Borderline personality disorder is a very serious mental illness. You should know that. The first thing right off the bat is, what are you doing trying to have a functioning relationship with somebody who has a serious mental illness? That should be the first question that you ask yourself. But even though I tell you that, you love the idea of them having a mental illness because that gives you an opportunity to talk smack about them and how much they've hurt you and how they've done this to you and they've done that to you, and you like that part. But you don't actually like when I say, so what the heck are you doing with somebody that is like that then? But they do have a very serious mental illness, which means that they do not process many things accurately or appropriately. And one of them is their emotions. So borderline personality disorder is in fact just a subset of narcissistic personality disorder. Borderlines, if you haven't heard that by now, I didn't make that up, but I definitely can tell you that that has been my experience with every single borderline that I've had an interaction with. They are, this is why people come on here and they sometimes say, I think mine also had NPD. Now, of course, your borderline had NPD. Because to be a borderline means that you are what's called a covert narcissist. What many psychologists have called failed narcissists. And I like that the best. Because when the individual, the infant, that unfortunately went through horrific damage as a result of neglect and or confusion and or harsh abuse or some combination of all of those things, as a result of that, that little infant was on the verge of actually dying. Not necessarily from anything physically done to them, but the emotional trauma of not being seen and loved and nurtured was so horrifically traumatic it almost killed them. So in order to survive, they create a fantasy world. They create a fantasy world where they are perfect. And in the case of the narcissist, they create this firewall where there's this fantasy world where they are perfect. It's actually not them. It's a fantasy projection of somebody else, but they want to identify with that. And they then create this firewall where that fantasy world becomes impenetrable to the horrors of objective reality. So their fantasy and objective reality are mutually exclusive. So the narcissist's total complete goal is to destroy objective reality and to supplant it with their fantasy where they are perfect and completely loved, and they have no flaws, and they have no vulnerabilities, etc., etc. So the borderline is a failed narcissist. It means that this is somebody, as an infant or a toddler, tried to create that fantasy world and was not able to do so. And so they vacillate back and forth between being the vulnerable infant who's full of emotions and needs and is seemingly very vulnerable and very loving. And they vacillate between that and the psychopathic, sociopathic narcissist who protects them. So you have to understand that. When you were the borderline, there are two people there. There is the borderline that you think is the real person, but that's only half of the equation. And then there is the hidden psychopathic narcissist. When the borderline feels love, or another way to put it is when they experience a fear of enmeshment, which really means they start to feel love, and then that feeling feels as though it's going to completely overtake them, which is actually true. When human beings fall in love, they fall in love. They lose control, and they become completely vulnerable to the other person. The other person that they have fallen in love with has the power to hurt them severely by rejecting them. The thought of being rejected is actually has the power to kill a borderline, and so they've created a defense. And that defense is the moment that they feel that vulnerability, whether that is actual or whether it is something internally generated because they're projecting it, who knows, transferring it onto you. Whenever they start to feel that, which psychologists like to call the fear of enmeshment, they then react completely violently against the threat, which is you. They're afraid that they will fall in love with you and that you will hurt them. It's just that simple. The fear is so overwhelming that it forces them to split. And when they split, they act out against you with tremendous hatred, and whether they're quiet borderlines or whether they're angry and abusive, doesn't matter. The end result is the same. They completely reject you and completely devalue you. They have to do that in order to move on. And then they, as people say, they monkey branch. I like the term, they trampoline. So they don't monkey branch, they trampoline. They really, the devaluation of you is they're actually pushing off against you. And they do that by completely devaluing you, and that then creates a spring, and they spring off of that devaluation that they've created from you, and they go flying into the arms of somebody else. So that's your borderline. You know that. You're totally nodding your head and wiping the tears, and you love talking about that. You love hearing about that. You love it when I explain to you that they are incapable of acting appropriately on their feelings. One of the main arguments that borderlines give to me, first off, borderlines are very touchy, and so that's the nature of their dynamic, is that the moment, even if you haven't said anything, and I'm clearly saying things that would be difficult for anybody to hear. But even if you haven't said anything, borderlines can decide that you are out to destroy them, and they will call you all kinds of names and saying that you're stigmatizing them and whatever else, abusing them. But it's understandable how a borderline can feel very stigmatized by many of the things that I say, even though if you spend enough time listening to me, you know that I'm not stigmatizing them at all, because the truth is that I completely see how horrible their situation is. I literally do not know any human on the planet that goes through anything worse than what a borderline lives with on a daily basis. So I have nothing but compassion for them. And I have nothing but respect and awe that they can live in that state every day and not off themselves. So I'm the last person to stigmatize them. But that doesn't take away the facts. The facts are that they have a damaged psyche that has created a mental illness, and they do not respond 100% of the time accurately with objective reality. That's just a fact. The other fact is that they actively destroy every single good connection that is on a romantic level. They might be able to have work relationships. Some of them are able to function very well in society. Some aren't. Mine wasn't. Mine was completely incapable of holding down a job and functioning, in any group. In fact, I would be extremely surprised if she was still with, where she was in a group situation when I left her, meaning like not like a. She was in a community. She was living in a community. I would be very surprised if she was still able to, if she hadn't destroyed her connections in that community. She was very dysfunctional. But many of them are very functional. They hold down jobs. They can go to school. They can be very successful. But the definition of a borderline is, among other things, one of the definitions is that on a romantic level, that is when you are going to see the full explosive destructiveness of their mental illness will be expressed in that relationship more than any place else in life, because the romantic relationship is the one that mirrors and replays the psychological dynamics that we had with our primary caregivers. That's why in the Bible it says, a man will leave his mother and father and cleave to his wife. It's the same thing, because your wife and or your husband actually is a way to separate from your parents. And your wife or your husband becomes the parent, and then you evolve that parent into a partner. So there's no way to fall in love with somebody without having to relive and stimulate all of your unresolved mommy and daddy issues. So with a borderline, that's all they are. Their main thing is completely unresolved mommy and daddy issues. All right? So you're all nodding your head. You're completely with me. Oh, yeah, that's exactly what they are. And oh, my God, the abuse is horrible. And they're so disconnected from reality. And if only they could listen to you, Mike, they would hear the truth, and then they would get better and love you, right? No. So they don't understand love. Just to give you an example. Now, they're going to get upset with me when I say that, because they feel love, but that's a feeling. Love is not a feeling. Love is an action. That's where borderlines fail. They fail at the actions of love. They don't fail immediately. This is what we call love bombing. In the beginning, they're extremely loving in their behavior. But the moment that it gets too real for them, then they split. And when they split, they always devalue the partner. They always destroy the bond. They destroy the trust. And that is an inaccurate action based on their internal feelings. It's an inaccurate action. It's an inappropriate action. So you know that, but as the partner, as the title of this video says, you also do not act appropriately towards your emotions. And I'm going to prove it. So, as always, I love to read people's comments on the channel. Bear in mind, it is not my intention to make anybody look bad or feel bad, because anything that I point out in your statements, which I'm going to point out the fallacious, is that even a word? I'm going to point out the mistakes in your thinking, and I'm going to show you how your thinking is not accurate, maybe even highly irrational, and is working against you. But bear in mind, everything that I point out in you is true or was true about me. So there's nothing that I say to you that I haven't already said to myself or say to myself on a daily basis. You and I are the same. The only difference is I've done the 4 things. So I always tell people, you shouldn't make a comment on my channel unless you're prepared for me to respond in a way that might make you uncomfortable. Because I'm going to know if you've done the 4 things. Not because I'm psychic. It's that you think you're making sense. You think that what you're doing and the actions that you take based on your feelings are rational and make sense. And those of us who have done the 4 things, we all either shake our heads or smirk or laugh or feel sorry for you because we know how disconnected from reality you are. So there's a fine line which creates a difference between the partner or the empath, let's call them empaths, that does not have a personality disorder but is enmeshed with the borderline. The difference between the empath and the borderline is simply a wall, and I don't know where or how that is crossed, but the borderline is suffering in what we call psychopathy, meaning they have a complete disconnection from objective reality to some degree at some point. The partner is in complete connection with reality, but really, really doesn't like it. In fact, they suffer from tremendous anxiety because they want to create a false reality where they can change the rules and have things go the way they want. But they can see that that's impossible. They know that it doesn't work. They know what happened tomorrow, or excuse me, they know what happened yesterday. They know what they're going to do tomorrow. They're clear on their identity, so they don't have a mental disorder, but they're pretty darn close to having one. They take the same kind of crazy lunatic actions that are completely divorced from objective reality and rational thinking. But like the borderline, they're in complete denial. So the borderline is in denial of their psychopathy, which is understandable because for them to be, if they were to all at once be aware of their pain and their disconnection from reality, it could possibly kill them. For the empath, the pain is also extremely debilitating. And to see the truth that they're trying desperately to deny would be incredibly painful. So if you are watching this, you are still in pain, you are still with your borderline, you are suffering from a delusion that borders on a mental illness, but not quite. And you also suffer from denial. If you didn't suffer from denial, you would have left the relationship the first time that they devalued you. Because the devaluation that a borderline does is off the scales. It's nothing like any other relationship. Borderlines will say, no, I mean, people break up with each other all the time. I just broke up with him. No, trust me. What you did is nothing like what other people do. What some people call neurotypicals. Neurotypicals break up in a very specific way. Even if it's nasty, even if there's hurt and betrayal, it still is in the realm of reality. The things that borderlines do are in a totally different universe, and the damage that they do is multiplied far beyond what happens in neurotypical relationships. I forgot what I was saying, but we'll keep going. I want to read some comments just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about here. So let us go to the comment section. And let's see what we got here. Comments. All right, so this is somebody who has watched my channel for some time. I haven't seen this person for a while. I don't know if they've taken some time off and come back. But I've had an ongoing back and forth with this person where I say the same thing that I say to everybody. After the initial question, because I assume if you've come here for the first time, you don't have a clue what the 4 things are. You don't have a clue what to do, and I accept that. So I will engage with you for the first couple of questions, deal with your answers. Maybe, maybe I'll be belligerent and how I am, snarky. But after the first couple times, if I've told you what to do, you need to do the 4 things. At some point, I'm going to start saying to you, listen, all of your questions will be answered after you've done the 4 things. It's pointless for you to do any more research. It's pointless for you to try and figure anything out, or as people say, educate themselves. It's pointless for you to try to educate yourself on BPD once you know that the way out is to do the 4 things. If you haven't done the 4 things, or if you refuse to do the 4 things completely and thoroughly, then I can't help you. You're out of the realm of my experience. People say, Mike, the 4 things are great, but that's not the only way. Okay, I'm not aware of any other way to do it. I've never seen anybody that's not, that doesn't have that is free from a mental illness. I've never seen anybody free from a mental illness that's been in these relationships fully recover from the relationship without doing the 4 things. So that means if I say, do the 4 things, that'll solve all of your problems. If I ask you the question, how many of the 4 things have you done? It means that I'm not interested in engaging with you on any of your questions about why do borderlines do this and why do borderlines do that. Because if you don't take the medication, you won't get the cure. You are suffering from a neurotic disease. Let's call it that. You don't suffer from psychopathy, but you are definitely neurotic and you are suffering. And this is an infection. Let's call it a neurotic infection. The borderline has infected you and you are in a neurotic state of trauma. You are not functioning on all cylinders. You are in a self-defense mode, and you have been in that since almost the beginning of the relationship, if not before. And it is impossible for you to get your life back together. You're going to make everybody else think differently, and you're going to want to tell me that you've got everything together. In fact, you may create a great facade of how put together you are and how put together your life is. But internally, you are falling apart. You're not sleeping well. You can't even go one moment without thinking about your borderline, even your borderline ex. If you've been out of the relationship, you may go through periods where you'll feel a little bit better, but then you'll wake up in the middle of the night, you'll still pine over them. Or more than likely, once you realize that there's no hope, you will be filled with rage. Right? You're like this, my neighbor, I don't know why. It's 6:15, it's dark, but my neighbor's out there with a backhoe. And you can hear the beep, beep. That's what's going on in your brain all the time. There's this beep, beep, beep. Right? So this is one of those people whom I've told him what to do and he hasn't done it. And so he says, in response to one of my recent videos, Dating a Borderline, Why Your BPD Partner Causes You Such Deep Anxiety. Bear in mind, the whole point of all these videos, the most important thing that I tell you is, if you want to feel better, do the 4 things. And almost never do people respond and leave a comment. Some do, saying, I'm doing one of the 4 things and it's really helping me. Or no, what they talk about is they push that aside and they want to focus on one of the things that I've said about how borderlines are and what they do. And that's where they want to focus. And so this person says the same thing. Hi, Mike. When you said that your BPD partner can't trust you, that hit home. That's exactly what I have been going through. This is months after coming onto my channel and knowing what I say you should do, starting with going no contact. My partner keeps telling me, so this person is still in the relationship, my partner keeps telling me she can't be vulnerable with me and can't trust me and open up. But she still can't walk away from me. She doesn't have the ability to tell me she loves me, and I don't have the ability to walk away from this situation. What you are saying is all so true, but I just can't do it. I know this all stems from my childhood as well. Well, that's awesome that you know that, but that knowledge clearly isn't giving you the power to do anything. This is why I tell people who want to come onto my channel to do research, but they don't want to do the work. The research is meaningless. That research won't give you the strength. The only thing that you need to know is that you are in pain. That you are in pain and that you can't, in and of yourself, make the pain go away. The other thing you need to know is that the person that you're with continues to harm you. That's all you need to know. That's all anybody needs to know. I'm in pain. My partner is harming me. And then you leave. When you leave, you have to then heal. So leaving is the first thing. And then there's 3 other things that you have to do to heal. If you don't do those 3 things, especially if you don't even do the first thing, then you won't heal. When you go to the doctor and the doctor says, you have an infection, and you say, okay, I'll take some time off work, and the doctor says, no, that infection will not go away. It will get into your brain and kill you. You have to take these antibiotics. But the good news is if you just take these pills, you will be cured and you will never have to worry about it again. And then you go home and you read the pills and you read everything that's on the bottle, and you put the bottle on the side, and then you type in and your illness and you research that. All of that research on your infection will not heal your infection. You have to take the pills. I'm offering you a bottle of antibiotics. It's up to you to take them. This person has decided not to take them. He says he doesn't have the ability. He says, I just can't do it. And that's just not true. This is the part I was talking about. You can't take appropriate action on your feelings. The fact is that this person, it's very difficult. It feels like it will kill him, but that is a feeling. This person is refusing to take action because he can't tolerate the feelings associated with it. So why I have no sympathy, although I do understand and I do empathize because I've been there, but while I have no sympathy is because he knows that he's harming himself and he's choosing to stay and harm himself over and over and over again. And then he wants to come on here and complain about it. So imagine going back to your doctor after your infection has spread to other parts of your body and your blood coming out of your nose and out of your eyes, and you go back to the doctor and you want to complain about how painful it is, and the doctor is going to say, what is wrong with you? I gave you the antibiotics. And you're going to go, I know, and I've researched this, and it is so painful. Can I tell you how painful it is when the pus comes out of the side of my eye? The doctor's like, I don't want to hear that. Take the medication. So it's, the fact that you want to leave a comment on here after I've told you what to do, and you want to complain about how badly your mentally ill partner who cannot love you properly is hurting you, I have no sympathy for you. This is your choice. When you say you can't do it, you are completely relieving yourself of all responsibility. And again, my question for everybody is, do you want to be happy? And because I know what it's like, I can tell you that no matter what you do, it's going to be extremely painful. But the good news is there are 2 kinds of pain. The choices that you are making, and you are making a choice. You want to say there's nothing I'm doing. I'm on a conveyor belt, and the conveyor belt is just taking me into the relationship, and I can't leave. But the truth is that every single day you choose to keep investing in the relationship. That is a choice followed by your actions. You tell yourself you don't have any control. You tell yourself that you're not doing anything to stay in the relationship, that they're doing it to you, but you are choosing to be there. And that is a fact. Even though in your neurotic delusion you want to tell yourself that you're not staying in the relationship, you are. I forgot what I was going to say. But I mean, if you want to be happy, there's two kinds of pain. The kind of pain where you keep doing what you're doing and you're going to be in pain, and the pain will get worse. You'll continue to go through that hamster wheel where you will think you're on the verge of fixing the problem and it's almost there, and this time she's going to get it, and then of course she splits on you worse than she did last time. Then she hoovers you back and you think this time it'll be okay, and it's never okay. Each time it gets worse and worse and worse. So keep doing what you're doing, and the pain guaranteed will get worse and might even kill you. The other pain that you are also guaranteed is if you do the four things, though, that will be even more painful. This person rightly says, when he says I can't do it, what he really means is that the thought of going no contact is more painful than staying in it, so I'm just going to stay in it. But the truth is that if you stay in it, it's going to be more painful in the long run. If you choose to get out, it'll be very painful in the beginning, and as long as you do all of the other three things that I recommend, I can guarantee you at some point, this is my guarantee to you, if you do the four things with everything that you have, I guarantee you that at some point you will be free of the pain you are feeling associated with that person. It's the only guarantee I can make you. I can't tell you when or how long. It might take you years of work, but eventually you will be free of pain. I guarantee you can have what I have. But in order to do that, you got to do what I do. So it makes me wonder why you guys come on the channel. I know why you come on the channel, because you're obsessed with this and you can't stop thinking about it. And you come onto my channel because a part of you wants to be free. And so you're hoping on some level that by listening to me, you're going to feel motivated to just go ahead and do it. But here's the truth. There's never a good time. I just recently saw somebody take some really drastic action, which I never thought she would take. So sometimes, if they're lucky, life will work out in such a way where you will finally get the gumption to start taking action. But in my experience, most of the time, there's never a good time. That you have kids, you have a relationship, there's never an easy time to get out. Probably the easiest time is when they've split on you and they've left town. Then you could pack up and leave, and then it would be potentially easier, but there's never a good time. So just do it. Let's see what else. Here's another one. I don't know if this person has been on my channel for long. I don't know. This is in response to my video, BPD relationship, why you must go no contact with the borderline. And this person says, failed. I can't even make it through one entire year without emailing her. I want you to listen to that, because a year is a long time. This is addiction. Because if we were just talking about normal bonds in a relationship, after a few months, you would start to heal. You would start to separate. But if after a year of not having any contact with somebody that you know is abusive to you, that doesn't love you, that doesn't value you, that treats you like an object and throws you away in the worst way possible on a regular basis, if after a year of no contact you can't help yourself from going back, it means that there is an emotional addiction. It means that the energetic bond was never broken. This is why you have to do all four of the things. If you just do one, it's not enough. It's not enough. You got to take all of your medication. Otherwise, you won't get rid of the infection. So after this person says, I can't even make it through 1 year without emailing her. It's been 8 months. All right, so it's been 8 months. I was doing well, felt okay. Guy goes to the doctor, and the doctor says, well, you've got this horrible infection. And the nature of the infection is that it sometimes comes and goes, but eventually it's going to make its way into all of your bodily systems and you will die. Here is the antibiotics. Take this now. You say, well, I'm not feeling that sick now. And the doctor says, I don't care. I'm looking at the numbers. You are extremely infected, and that's part of the disease. It's like COVID. You know, COVID, as you know, you get it. You get symptoms, it goes away, and then it comes back worse. And by the time people end up in the hospital, they felt bad, and then they felt better, and then they felt bad, and then they felt really bad. So that feeling okay isn't enough. If you feel okay, good. That means that now you have the power to finish taking the rest of the action of the 4 things. So don't kid yourself. This is an infection that will not go away on its own. You have to do the work. If you don't do the work, you are guaranteed it will come back. You know, there are people that go cold turkey from their addictions, whatever they are, sex, gambling, drugs, alcohol. They can go cold turkey for long periods of time, and then one day, boom, they're back in it. It's because they haven't treated it. If you don't treat this, it won't go away. All right. So one person said here, an interesting interaction with this person. And again, it's not my desire to hurt anybody's feelings. My desire is to help you. So sometimes I'm going to tell you things you're not going to like hearing. In fact, you might even feel personally attacked. But trust me, it's nothing personal. This person says, Mike, you helped inspire this. And then they made a video. I looked at the video and I watched a couple of minutes of it, and I responded back and I said, I'm honored that I inspired you. My only desire is to inspire you to do the 4 things like your life depended on it. And then I went and gave him a critique of what I saw, which was he said something that I won't repeat it, but it was obvious he did not understand the dynamic. That he actually believed there was something that a person could do to potentially keep a borderline with you. And that shows that this person doesn't understand BPD. And I said as much. And then the person came back and said I took the videos off, etc., etc. But the point is that he said something to the effect of, I feel like you're a brother to me, and you've helped me beyond words. Well, I haven't helped you all that much if you haven't done the 4 things. So this is where the feelings part comes in. Borderlines say, I'm not a narcissist because I have empathy. No, you don't understand. I love more than anybody. And then I say, that's great that you have that feeling, but you aren't able to follow through with that consistently. If that love eventually drives you to act in ways that are destructive to the relationship and destructive to the person who loves you, that technically means that you didn't really love them in your actions. You had a feeling, and you like to indulge in the feeling of being in love when it's convenient. But love is when you don't like the person, when you're angry at the person, when you're disgusted, bored, whatever your negative feeling towards the person that you say you love, you continue to act in a loving way. You continue to invest with your actions to make them feel loved, to feel safe, and to keep the relationship going. That's love. That's why in marriage vows they say, in sickness and in health, for richer or for poorer, in good times or in bad. It means that your actions will, from here on out, be loving. It doesn't matter that you don't feel it. So for borderlines to say, no, I'm not narcissistic, I'm full of love. Well, your love is great, but it has to be something that is consistent. Otherwise, if you then act psychopathically, if you act without any regard to the other person's feelings or to the relationship you've invested in, that is what makes you a narcissist. Even if it's just a little tiny window where the action has such a destructive effect on the whole relationship, that's what matters. The opposite is true. When you love somebody and then you hate them, or you're bored with them, or you want to run off with your secretary, and for a few days or a week or a month you do the opposite of what you're feeling, that's when somebody can say you really loved your wife. You stayed with her during the difficult times. You stayed with her when the relationship was difficult, and you were loving to her. But if you feel love, and then when you no longer feel loving, you act out on the ugly feeling, you are that. And if during that time you are acting psychopathically and sociopathically, that's what makes you a sociopath during those times. So the same is true with me. So I said to this guy was saying how much he appreciated me and thought of me like a brother and something along those lines. And my response was, I'm really glad that you have those feelings. But if you really want to show me that you see me as a brother, or you see me as somebody and that I have helped you immensely, you can prove that by doing the 4 things. If you tell me how much I've helped you and how deeply you feel connected to me, but you refuse to take my recommendation on what to do, then you're really not all that connected to me. Then you really don't understand what I'm doing, and you don't understand what I'm saying. And that's called projection. That's called transference. So anybody that comes on here and you hear me talk and you want to connect with me, you think that you and I have some bond that's really deep, that is called projection. Because that's not real. The real feeling will come if you do all of the 4 things and you heal yourself. And then you come back and say, Mike, I feel such a strong connection with you. I did the 4 things and I feel so much better. Then I'll believe you, because then your feeling will be based on actual actions, and you will actually understand me better because you'll know what I went through. If you haven't done the 4 things, you don't know the first thing about me. And you don't know what it's like to be where I'm at. And that's okay. If you it's like sitting outside of a gym and wanting to be, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Well, you want to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, you better go in that gym and do what he does. Otherwise, you can't sit out there and say, yeah, man, I feel just like you. He's going to go, you don't have the slightest clue what I've been through. All right, so having said that, let's go ahead and take a look at some questions. I know there's a ton of them. Bear in mind, I'm just interested in your questions. And again, I'm going to know if you've done the work or not. Don't take it personally, but that's really all I'm here to do, is to help you do the work. Because I want you to heal. I'm not interested in co-signing your pain or your prolonged whatever. Let's see. So the 4 things, before we go any further. Number 1, you go full no contact, which means you make it impossible for them to contact you. Not that you don't call them today, but that you make it impossible for them to contact you for the rest of your life. If you don't do that, you haven't done number 1, which is why the guy says 8 months later, I emailed her. He didn't make it impossible for them to have contact. Number 2, you work all 12 steps of coda.org, which is the website for Codependence Anonymous. You work all 12 steps of Codependence Anonymous, or whatever 12-step group you choose, with a sponsor, meaning you can't do it in your head by yourself. You have to do it with somebody else, and somebody has to see you do it. You have to make yourself responsible and available to somebody else. Otherwise, you have not done thing number 2. Thing number 3 is you work with a psychologist. Now, if you have to choose, some people can't afford a psychologist. Some people can't find a counselor online. You can find a free counselor online, by the way. If you put the effort in, you will find somebody to counsel you for free. I know, because I tried and I was able to find somebody. I have a psychologist that I work with, but just because I was telling people to do it and people were saying, I can't afford it, I said, I don't believe you. I went online and I just typed in free online counseling, and within seconds I found numerous places where I could find counseling. But if I had to choose between step number 2 and step number 3, without fail, I would say do number 2. Go to CODA, work all 12 steps with a sponsor, then get a psychologist when you can afford it. So don't give me this bullshit. People come on here and say, where am I going to find a counselor for free? I can't do the 4 things. Great. Have you done number 2? Have you worked all 12 steps with a sponsor while you're trying to find a counselor? No. Oh my God, I'm shocked. Don't bullshit me. I know when you're putting the effort in and when you're not. I will know. Number 4 is daily meditation, which is really just step 11 of the 12 steps. Those are the 4 things. If you truly respect what I have to say, you will do them. If you don't, then I will be thoroughly offended. No, I won't. I don't care. It's completely up to you. You can do whatever the hell you want. Mike G says it's not that easy to get a sponsor through CODA. So what? What do you want from me? You can go to Al-Anon. You can go somewhere else and find a sponsor. Look, guys, I tell you that to do the 4 things means you have to do them as though your life depended on it. The nature of codependence is resistance, which means you are if you are a codependent, it means that you will find ways to resist doing the work. So what do you want from me? You've run into a challenge. So pull up your big boy pants and make it happen. You didn't find one right away. Somebody told you a minimum of 6 meetings. What's wrong with that? Are you telling me that 6 meetings is too much? And I mean, I didn't even read the whole thing. But let's listen. Bear in mind what I just said. If you're willing to heal, it means you're willing to do absolutely everything within your power to do the 4 things. Listen how easily you give up. It's not that easy to get a sponsor through CODA. I was told you have to attend a minimum of 6 meetings. That's easy. You telling me then you go on to say it can be done by phone or Zoom. You just told me it is easy. Doing 6 meetings is not that difficult. So if that's what it takes for you to get a sponsor, then get your ass to a meeting. By phone or Zoom or in person. Come on, give me a break. What do you recommend? If you've got a question, by the way, and if you've been on my channel, what is it that I ask people to do? I ask them to write the word question. I ask that not only because I'm a controlling pain in the ass, but because I want to be able to see your question. So please show me that you're paying attention. You say, what do you recommend for thing number 3 with a free psychologist? I don't recommend anything. I've just told you what to do. If you can't pay for a psychologist, and there are so many psychologists out there that are affordable. So unless you're homeless, take the money that you're spending on your, whatever it is, your video games or your, something that you're, your weekly night out at the steakhouse. I mean, come on. Are you telling me you guys seriously don't know how to organize your lives? You're adults. Stop acting like children. And that's what you're acting like. If I was a borderline, you and the borderline said, I have to, come up with $100 to do this every month, you would find a way. If you had to get a 3rd or a 4th job, you would do it to take care of that borderline's needs. Now that you have a need to find a psychologist and you don't have the money and you want to go the free route, because I've said you can find free counseling, and now you want to hem me into some little, corner so that you can talk yourself out of it. I don't care. Find somebody. But the first 2 things you can do, those are free. So stop bullshitting me. When you find a free psychologist, great. Find a psychologist that's affordable, great. You can do it. You have to put the effort in. You have to be completely committed. Be as committed to your recovery as you were to fixing the borderline. If you are as half as committed to your own recovery as you were to fixing the borderline, you will find an answer to all of these questions that you're trying to pose to me, which is really you saying, I can't do it. I can't do the 4 things. Let's see what else. There is no free psychologist online. Well, you haven't found one, so what? They either want a fee or your insurance. Oh my God, I feel so bad for you. You're such a victim. You're telling me if this wasn't something that you really wanted, you wouldn't find a way to make it happen? Don't bullshit me. What do you recommend with a specific meditation for thing 4, which is actually step 11? Well, if you're working the steps, you'll know what step 11 is. But I don't have a recommendation. You know, you've got sitting, looking at you right now, you have these links which are associated with my other channel. And guess what that other channel is devoted to? Meditation. I have free meditation. Seriously, guys. It amazes me the lack of effort people put into their lives. I mean, it's not just you. Don't take it personally. It amazes me that people don't put any effort in parking their cars in between the lines. It amazes me, this mindset of I'm incapable of making decisions for myself and making things happen for myself. You couldn't find a free psychologist online. Did you bother to try and find a meditation online? What is my recommendation? My recommendation is find the kinds of meditations that work for you. I don't know what works for you. You want to do the kind of meditations that I do, you can go onto my other channel. You can go and subscribe here if you want. That's all I do is teach people meditation. Seriously, 2 most important things in life. This is 4, you only need 2. 2 most important things in life. Pay attention and put effort. You can do those things, Mike. I appreciate the questions, but seriously, how committed are you to this? Mia, question. I'm about to have my first session with a therapist that specializes in BPD and PD. What should I look for to see if he would be a good fit for me? I have no idea. It's a completely personal thing. I can't tell you that. I don't know. Listen, as I said before, the most important things to do is number 1 and number 2. If you do number 1 and number 2, number 3 and number 4 will follow. But it's great that you're seeing a psychologist. And let me tell you again, I'm telling you my honest experience. My honest experience is that psychology by itself won't fix the problem. Sometimes people can have some help with just working with a psychologist. I had that experience myself. I worked with psychologists that only went so far. But if you really, really want to heal from this issue, and you don't suffer from a personality disorder, my experience is the 12 steps are by far the most thoroughly healing path that you have, and they have the ability to change your neural pathways. Psychology, in my experience, doesn't have that ability. Psychology at best has the ability to sort of peel back your unconscious, which is great, because then you get to look at your family of origin stuff and you get to feel that, and that can be very helpful. For some people, it can be miraculous. For most people, in my experience, it only does about half of the job, if that. Because what psychology cannot do is it cannot change your neural pathways. And psychology on its own, in my experience, which is all I have, normally will not give you the strength to take actions all the time. And the 12 steps are all about actions. And those actions that you take in the 12 steps actually change your neural pathways. So, I have had great success working the 12 steps and working with a psychologist. But my psychologist is also very aware of the 12 steps and knows how they work. Having said that, I've also worked with psychologists that didn't, and I had good success with them. What should you look for? You should look for anything that strengthens your ability to separate from your borderline narcissist ex. And that's something you figure out. So great, just do it and see what happens. If that one doesn't work, get another one. You can always get another psychologist. But just keep doing the 4 things until it clicks. And if you think of it that way, like in other words, if you went to the doctor and you had life-threatening cancer and you had 3 weeks to live, and the doctor says, wow, you're going to die in 3 weeks. However, I have this cure. You have to stand on your head and recite the Pledge of Allegiance backwards for 1 hour a day. If you do that, then you're guaranteed you will never die of cancer, but you have to do that every single day. Trust me, you would do that. You would say, an hour out of my day, I can do that. If that means I don't die a horrible death, and you would put the effort in to figure it out, you would do it. So again, what I'm telling you guys to do isn't all that hard. So we have to acknowledge that being codependent means that there is an inherent resistance to the healing. And that's, in the 12 steps, that's what's called I'm powerless. What you're really powerless over is your own resistance. And that's what the 12 steps help you to do. It. And your neural pathways, you're powerless over that. But there are things that you can do to shift and change that. But it's going to take time and discipline. But it can be done. So Mia, congratulations. And I hope everything works out. All right. Mike G says, I ordered the green workbook from Coda, which is working the 12 steps and the 12 traditions. Are you working with a sponsor? You said, oh no, I got to go to 6 meetings. So go to the 6 meetings and then work with a sponsor. I'm glad that you ordered the workbook. I'm not familiar with the workbook, but it doesn't matter. Mike, all of these questions you're asking me are questions that you would ask a sponsor. So go to as many meetings, and if that particular meeting requires that you go to 6 meetings, try another meeting. Try another meeting and say, I'm really interested in working the steps and I'd like to have a sponsor very quickly. But part of the reason, they must have a reason for it. I'm a member of a different 12-step group and they do things very differently there. But probably the reason why they do it is that they know that codependents are very resistant. And they're testing you to see if you will put the time and effort into going to all 6 meetings, because then if you've made it through all 6 meetings and you're still coming back, it probably means that you're more likely to follow the instructions of your sponsor. So this is part of your 12-step work. So again, stop complaining. Just do it. Whatever it is they tell you to do, just do it. Mike G, I changed my cell number, so thing number 1 is already done. Well, not yet. So far, you've done the right thing. I guess I'm fine. No, you're not. You're not fine yet. You still haven't taken all of the antibiotics in the bottle. And when you go to the doctor, he says you have to take the full course of antibiotics. So you haven't taken the full course of antibiotics, but you are in the process. So good for you that you have started. You have started to begin doing number 1 and number 2. What's important here is that as a codependent, you were programmed to be perfect. This is one of the reasons I take this harsh, prove it to me kind of attitude. Listen, there's plenty of other places. If you go to Coda meetings, they do things very differently there. They coddle people there. They do whatever they do there. I do what I do because that's what works with me. And part of the reason that I'm constantly challenging you guys and constantly, pointing out your resistance and your fears and all that is because, you have to be willing to die to get this. Otherwise, something in you will talk you out of it. So that's why I'm this way with you. That's why I'm so, impatient with you. Because it's the truth. It's not that I don't have sympathy, and it doesn't mean that there isn't times when I want to really get into, gossiping about how borderlines are and how painful it is. There are times that I want that, but that's not what's going to heal you. And I'm not the one that's going to heal you. You have to do it. So the more that you keep trying to ask me to fix all of your problems, the more I'm going to tell you, go do it yourself. Here's how I did it. Now you go do it. This, by the way, is my Christmas present to everybody. Get up off your ass and do it, because that's ultimately what's going to fix you. And that's all I'm interested in. I'm only interested in helping you. Bear in mind, there are people who have channels on YouTube who deal with narcissism and narcissistic relationship abuse, and they really want you to commit to their channel. They want you to subscribe to their channel and comment, and they want you to buy services from them. I got nothing against that. I do this on my other channel. That's how I make my living. On this channel, I don't want anything from you. I'm only here to tell you what worked for me. And so you know I'm not selling you anything. And I've proven it to myself. And if you want it, I can tell you exactly what to do. And in those other channels, maybe they'll tell you what to do, maybe they won't. But part of the sales process is to keep you constantly in it. Keep you constantly, this is what happens on the empath, the super empath channels. They just keep you constantly in the drama and the pain and all of that. And you notice that one of the I spend this much time talking about narcissists and the rest of the time talking about get up off your ass and do the work. And stop asking me, how do I know? Go do it and tell us. What else? Mike G, if you've got all the answers, go somewhere else. Borderline personality disorder is mainly genetics. Bullshit. I'm not saying that there isn't some genetics involved, but how, and more importantly, how does that comment help you? How does that help you? How does that help you heal? Anyway, Mike G has some more thoughts and comments, his expertise. Mike, put that expertise that you're trying to put on the channel, put it into recovery. Put that expertise into how the steps work and how you mastered the steps and healed yourself. Then your opinion will mean something. Your opinions that you've just dropped on the different types of BPD and NPD is meaningless because it hasn't yet fixed you. But to your credit, you have started. I will acknowledge that. You have done probably the most difficult part. And so it gets progressively easier if you commit to it. So let me just give credit where credit is due and not be such a pain in the ass. Mike G, I'm not going to read your comment because I only want questions and honest feelings. So I'm going to bypass that. Again, pay attention. Two most important things in life, pay attention and put effort. You've heard me say it before. I'm not interested in your comments. Let's see, what else? Jameson Song, question. I feel stuck and stagnant. I understand. And that's a feeling. I don't know how to forgive or love myself. I understand. If you did know how to forgive or love yourself, you wouldn't be watching my channel. So you're right where you belong. Having said that, I empathize with the feeling. I understand it. I also deal with it every day. In fact, I had a little sit down with myself today. I found myself, I'm sitting here because I've just left where was my fantasy home. I was in Australia. And I'd been there for 2.5 years and I was absolutely ecstatic. I was a little bored and lonely. But other than that, I was, I was living my, beyond my wildest dreams. Because of all the craziness that's going on with COVID, I left because I'm not vaccinated and I don't want to have to deal with that. And I had to leave there anyway, simply for a couple of reasons. But I'm here in Florida and I'm in this little cottage that's on the shore of a river with dolphins and manatees, and then a mile in that direction is the ocean, and there's nothing but like primal forest in between here and there. I mean, there's not nothing. There's a bunch of retired people. But, I was sitting here thinking to myself, because it's almost Christmas Eve, I started going into this, I'm worthless, nobody loves me, I'm such a screw up. And then I stopped and I said, hang on, that's a judgment. And if I'm really honest with myself, I'm not really all that upset about being alone. In fact, I put a lot of effort into not being with anybody that I don't want to be with. And there's nobody that I want to be with right now. I like my life. And I only start feeling all those feelings when I start thinking about what other people think about me. So I have that same thing about, and when I stopped and I said, it's not about what other people think about me. It's what I think about me. And if I'm honest, I feel pretty good. There are things that I'm wanting to change. I don't think I'm going to live here forever. In fact, I know I won't. And if I were able to have a relationship and have friends and all of that, I would enjoy that. And when I get somewhere where I'm able to invest in that, I will. For the time being, I am actually okay with my life. I've got nothing but problems of abundance. I'm living in paradise, even though it's not the paradise that I want. And I get to kayak with dolphins and manatees, or I get to go surfing when there's surfing that's going on, or walk through amazing forest. What is there to complain about? I only complain when I worry about what other people think about me. So I wonder how much of that applies to you, Jameson. How much of this feeling that you have has to do with what other people think about you? Having said that, it's okay that you don't. I mean, and why should you? You've only been, how long have you been in recovery? How long have you been sober and in recovery? And in that time, how long were you not? How many years of your life were you not? Were you in the craziness? You've been in this part of your life for a very short period of time. So why would you be able to love and forgive yourself? You don't have any experience doing it. You're just learning how to do it. Your neural pathways are constantly telling you all these horrible things about you. So you're right where you belong. As I've always said to you, and I'm happy to continue saying it to you, that's just a feeling. It's not a fact. Feelings are not facts. And if you take actions, the thing to do now is, okay, I don't have these feelings. So what are the actions that people take who do love themselves, who do forgive themselves? I do this to myself. In fact, I was doing it today. You can take actions that people who do love themselves do, and you will get the benefits of that, even if you don't have the feelings corresponding to that. And the way it works is, like anything, the more that you keep doing something, you will get the benefit. That's what karma is, by the way. Karma is simply the result of your actions. My brother is homeless, if he's still alive, and miserable because he spent his whole life indulging and taking actions on his severe codependence. I, for 40 years, have been taking actions. I have not been perfect about it. I'm still not perfect about it. But for 40 years, I have been taking actions towards my empowerment and my healing. And as a result, I have what I have in my life. And I'm pretty happy with what I have. I'm happy to improve it. So where does the trauma end and my authentic self begin? Great question. When you figure that out, let me know. I haven't figured that out yet. How can I deserve love when I continue to take harmful actions? Because everybody, including my brother, who I just mentioned, everybody deserves love because you exist. There's nothing you can do. There aren't enough things that you can do that will make you worthy of love. No amount of good works will ever. This is one thing that Christianity almost got right. You know, you can't earn your salvation, it's a gift. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that you already have it. You are worthy of love simply because you exist. And you don't have to do anything to exist. That just happens on its own. So now you have my permission to not have to ever do anything ever again to deserve love. The reason why you choose to change your harmful actions is so that you can feel better. You deserve to feel better, so you have to do the work, take responsibility for your life, and take constructive actions. And that is on you. But in terms of, being worthy of love, my brother is still worthy of love. Ted Bundy, at the moment before his death, was worthy of love. He did a lot of horrible things, and he suffered the consequences of that. But in terms of deserving love, every single being in the universe deserves love at every single moment, even when they're in the midst of doing horrible things. You were taught that your love was conditional. It's going to take you a long time to learn. I still haven't learned it yet. It's going to take you a long time to learn that love is not something that you earn. We're not talking about relationships. In relationships, yes, you have to earn people's love and trust, but in terms of you just being worthy of love, you already are. There's nothing you can do to make you more worthy of love. All right, Mike G has another comment. Again, I don't read comments, Mike. I'm interested in your questions and your feelings. Let me tell you why. Again, Mike, I'm more interested in you doing the 4 things than in you doing anything else. Everything else is meaningless. The reason why I have you ask questions is because when you're in the state of asking a question, it means you haven't made a conclusion, you haven't made a judgment, you're not in your intellect, you're in your feelings. When you ask a question, you're in your feelings. You're trying you're open to learning. And it's not just that you need to have a question for me. I'm not the source of all wisdom. The universe, life, responds to people who have honest questions. Honest questions means you're willing to do something different than what you're doing now. It means you're willing to be wrong. It means you're willing to learn things that you've never learned before. And that means that you're not in a state of self-defense. All the time that you're trying to figure out borderlines, you're in the state of self-defense. When you're asking an honest question about what do I do about this, how do I accomplish that, you're in a good place. Honest feelings, the same thing. Honest feelings are I'm angry, I'm lonely, I'm scared, I'm tired, I'm frustrated, I'm happy, I'm hopeful, I'm confused. Those are honest feelings. And when I say I want to see your questions and your honest feelings, it's because I want you to learn how to be in that vulnerable state. When you're in that vulnerable state, you are in a state of trust, and the universe can help you. That's why I'm not interested in your comments. First off, if you've got so much of an answer that you have the ability to write a comment, you have no business on my channel. You should be making your own videos. You're on my channel because you think I have some information that you don't. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. And I'm not saying that you don't have answers. If you have the answers, stop wasting your time with me and start sharing it with other people. But if you're here because you want my help, then the best way to do that is to ask me honest questions. Let's see. Michael Tagg, I don't know what he's doing there. Those aren't questions, so I'm not going to read that. If you have a question, Michael, I will answer it. G. Diz, that's not a question either. Kevin Lovell. Okay, congratulations. He's done 3 of the 4 things. I don't know what that means. I don't know which ones. G Diz hasn't figured out how this works yet. I'm only interested in your questions. And then Kevin Lovell jumps in and he's going to fix G Diz. I mean, go ahead. I don't care. You guys can do whatever the hell you want. Dennis, I normally don't read this, but he says, I've been doing the 4 things every day. My anger to my ex is disappearing day by day, but I sometimes have the pain of loneliness. You didn't ask a question, but your question is, do you think that I am healing? Yes. I'm 40 years into this. I still, as I just shared with you, I still have pain. I still have sadness, and we still go through life. You know, 10 years ago, I went through a divorce. That was very painful. 4 years ago, I lost the love of my life. I'm still grieving that. And there are days when I break down into tears and I cry for hours because of it. So it's not about not having any feelings or not having any pain. It's about, am I better off today than I was yesterday? And you just said you are. So that's all this is. This is a journey. Progress, not perfection. You are obviously progressing. Congratulations. There's nothing more that you can do right now. Tomorrow you can do a little bit more. All right. Let's see. What else? Guys talking to each other, wasting my time, having to scroll through all of that. Digital Nomad's been doing the 4 things. Congratulations. Comment. I'm not interested in your comments. Yeah, G Diz. So this is a question and answer. You'd be helping me do my job if you kept your chatter to a minimum, because it's just noise. I have to scroll through the noise to get to the questions. And Kevin, it's great that you want to help him. I guess I can't tell you not to do that, but that's not what I want to do here. If G Diz has a question for me, he can ask. And I guess it's not your job to jump in there and fix him. Jaharo, question. Other than this channel, would you say any positives came out of your BPD relationship? I don't even know how to answer that question. What if I said no? Would that make any sense to you? No, actually, no positive things came out of it, just this channel. I mean, of course. I healed from something that was killing me. I know more about my what was causing and what is the main issue. She taught me what the main issue was with my mother. And when I did enough of the 4 things, I was able to separate that. Oh my God, my BPDX is not my mother. My mother is my mother, or was my mother. She's dead. And so I could focus on that. That's one of the things that you'll get from doing the 4 things, is that you won't heal the underlying cause, but you'll be able to separate it from the borderline. If you're still with the borderline, you are projecting onto the borderline your unresolved childhood issues. When you can see the difference, you won't need the borderline anymore. The borderline serves a purpose, but that purpose should be short-lived. Just long enough for you to go, holy crap, I need help. And people are unnecessarily destroying their lives. And, everybody's doing their best, If I didn't know there were 4 things, I'd still be in that relationship. Say, what else? Any other questions? All right. So Kevin Lovell says, I was just trying to help support other guys in the channel. I understand. I thought it was an open dialogue. So Kevin, this is do the 4 things. So the most valuable contribution you can give to this classroom is to share your experience with the 4 things. What's that? You haven't done the 4 things yet, so you don't have anything to contribute. So listen, you can ask questions, and eventually when you've been here long enough, you'll realize that all of my questions will be, do the 4 things and that will answer your question. Mia, question. Could you talk a bit about the BPD acting inappropriately on feelings and how sometimes the non-BPD also acts out in anger? I still struggle with thoughts I might be BPD. Mia, how many of the 4 things have you done? As I said earlier, there's really, some guy last time on the live chat was getting bent out of shape because I wasn't answering his questions and he was saying that I was rude. And I said, hey, if I'm not answering your questions, it's because you haven't done the 4 things. You've been on this channel long enough to know that, and I was talking to him, you've been on this channel long enough to know that this is about getting off your ass and doing the 4 things. And then after I got off, then he said something about, well, you're not a doctor and I'm here to educate myself. So let me be clear, guys. As I said before, education, the education that I could give you, if I answer your questions about that more, Mia, the best that will come from me answering that question will be you feeling a connection with me, and then taking the good feeling you will get from feeling connected and feeling understood. If you take that feeling and then say, I'm going to go do the 4 things, that will be what will be beneficial. But for us to just keep delving into trying to figure out the borderline will not fix you. So Mia, again, I don't know, it doesn't sound to me like you've done the 4 things. And that's really all I'm here. You say, I struggle with thoughts I might be BPD. Why are you talking with me about that? If you really are interested in finding out if you're borderline, there's a way to do that. And that's called working with a psychologist and getting a diagnosis. I severely doubt that you're borderline because borderlines don't wonder if they're borderline. They know that they're not. I'm not a borderline. Just like they know that they're not a narcissist. I'm filled with compassion and love, you asshole. How dare you call me a borderline? How dare you call me a narcissist? You're stigmatizing me, you motherfucker. I'm filled with compassion and love and empathy. Go fuck yourself, you asshole. Right? So Mia, you're not a borderline. I seriously doubt it. But if you really wonder about it, stop with the mind fuck. Go get a diagnosis. If you want to heal from the pain of being with a borderline, there are 4 things that you can do. Anything outside of that, I can't help you with. Because I just don't have the experience. I only know what I know. Kevin Lovell says, I've done 3 of the 4. I don't know what those are. Why aren't you telling us which ones those are? And that's like going back to the doctor and saying, I took 3/4 of the antibiotics and I started feeling better, but a year later now, I'm worse than ever. So 3 of the 4 is good, but you got to do all 4. Anyways, I'm not saying what you did was wrong. I realize that you're reaching out and trying to help him, but listen, you can do whatever you want. I can't stop you from doing it. I'm not going to block you if you talk to somebody and try and fix them. But that's basically what's happening. You're trying to fix the guy. And on my channel, what I do is what I just did. I am the guy who gives the tough love. That's my job. There are other guys that do things differently, and that's their job. I like doing it that way because when I give people the tough love, they feel their discomfort. And that's good because people will not do the work unless they have to. And, until they hit their bottom, until it becomes, they have no choice. Because the truth is human beings don't change unless they're filled with pain. Nobody likes to change until they can't help it anymore. So I come on here and I'm going to be that tough love guy. I'm not going to co-sign people's stuff. Because by indulging GDiz, GDiz is new to the channel, so he doesn't know any better. He's heard me now. He knows now that I don't want to see him, drop all this chatter on here. But by indulging in that with him, you are indulging, and the kindest thing you can do is, let him interact with what I'm doing here on the channel. And if you really want to help him, say, hey, go do the 4 things. If you're doing the 4 things, unless I'm wrong, in which case you can start your own channel and do things your way, which I'm perfectly okay with. All right, I'm starting to digress into nothingness here. I don't see any other questions here. So I wish everybody the best. Happy holidays in whatever way that you celebrate them. And of course, there's my other channel if you want to go check that out. And stay safe, take care of yourselves. And I hope, this year isn't that bad. And it hasn't been that bad for a while. But up until a couple of years ago, Christmas and New Year's, well, except for the Christmas and New Year's that I had 2 years ago with my borderline ex, which was easily the worst holiday season of my life, without doubt. But this can be a really tough time of year, especially for those of us who've gone through this. So I feel for all of you. If you're in pain, if you're lonely, if you're sad, if you're ruminating, do something. I'm sure there will be meetings to go to. If you want to go to a CODA meeting, I'm sure there's plenty out there. All right, so I wish you guys all the best. I hope I haven't offended anybody. If so, just know that I'm human, I make mistakes, and that it's out of a desire to be as helpful as I possibly can. And so that's what I've done. So my gift to you guys is get up off your ass and go do the work. And then next year, maybe it'll be a lot better. I hope so. All right. I'll see you guys next time I see you. Take care. Let's see, where am I? I'm looking for my end screen. All right. See you guys later.